This year, for Mother's Day, my son gave me a trip to Spøttrup Castle. It's a medieval castle, 2 hours drive from here. He wanted me to have a memory, something to look back on, and not another knick-knack that just ends up collecting dust on the shelf. And we started off by exploring the gardens, looking at the herbs that were used for medicinal purposes. And that was actually quite fun. My son ended up naming it the Poison Garden because I think 80 or 90% of the herbs used in the medieval times were actually poisonous to some degree. So we actually ended up spending quite some time looking at the plants and learning new stuff about that. The castle is situated at this lake that you see, Spøttrup Lake, and its oldest history is lost in the mists, but the current building was completed somewhere in the 1520s. And when it was completed, it stood as a powerful fortress with a magnificent residence for the bishop. It has a rampart and 2 moats to keep the cannons away. And as you can see, we spent quite some time just exploring the museum. It has been a museum since the 1940s, and some of the parts of the castle is like it was in the medieval times, like this great hall. And one of the things that we immediately talked about is it couldn't have been a very comfortable place to live, because it was warm and nice and sunny outside, but inside the castle it was cold and damp. The walls in this castle are very thick because it's a fortified castle, and so it gets very cold and it's difficult to heat. And we just spent some time looking at the rooms. Here we are looking out into the courtyard, and we were talking a lot about how it must have been to live there also as a servant. This small hallway was for the soldiers to go on patrol. The castle was owned by the Catholic Church in the 1520s, up until the Catholic was thrown out in 1530s, and ever since that it's been a Protestant country. But up until then, there were soldiers at the premises to protect the bishop, including this room. We were quite disappointed. They say there was supposed to be a bloody hand. There's a lot of ghost stories around this castle, and supposedly there was a bloody hand near the fireplace. We never found it. And these rooms are looking like it later in the years, in the 1600s and 1700s, like the noble people would have lived back then. I think they probably would have more color on the wall, but I'm not sure. I especially like this vase with a face on. I wouldn't mind making something like that. I think he's quite fun. And here my son discovered some graffiti, actually. This is the door into the loo. And sometime long ago, someone scribbled a verse about hygiene on the inside of that door. And my son was quite fascinated by this bed with the extremely hairy infants, as he called the babies, that the bedposts are women holding babies, and he thought they were quite hairy babies, and the women looked quite tired. But it's a magnificent bed, and a very creepy mirror that looks like something out of a horror movie. And we ended the day by going into the cellars and looking at the creepy cellars. This would have been used for storage, but also where the servants would meet and eat. And not a lot of sunshine got in, as you can see. And then we are outside in the courtyard again. And we had some lovely weather at our trip, which made the experience all more pleasant. And this is the kitchen. And there is a well inside the kitchen, which was important, because if the castle was under siege, it was important that you could get drinking water. It probably would have been a very smoky and not very nice kitchen to work in, but back in the days it was creme de la creme. And we ended off just exploring some of the grounds again and enjoying the nice weather. Here's a view of the castle behind the rampart. And now we're into the drawing part. I decided that I wanted to make this series where I explore something and then later on I document it in my sketchbook or my illustrated journal. And I didn't film it, but there were these dolls or mannequins with medieval attire. And so I decided to draw this nobleman, this medieval dude, in my sketchbook. He's no one in particular. I just made him up, and then because I think the history of clothing is quite interesting, and men do certainly not dress like that these days. And then I just ended up sketching the rampart and the castle peeking up behind. I filmed this quite some time ago, back in May, and looking back, if I should have drawn it today, I probably would have included something around the medicine garden, because that is one of the things I think back of and where we spent a lot of time and really enjoyed ourselves. It was quite fun, actually. Fun is probably not the right word. It was interesting to think that one of the herbs my son read about was used for hysterical women, and it could lead to internal bleeding, kidney failure, and cancer, which is absolutely appalling to think that you have forced women to take that. So it was interesting, and we walked off being very grateful for the medical care today. And here I am painting the first layer of my sketch. I always paint one layer of one color, and then I go on top with additional layers and shadows. So I started off by painting the guy, the sky, and the rampart. There were some beautiful yellow flowers, so those kind of blobs there, they are ending off being yellow flowers. This guy, he gave me some grief. I wasn't satisfied with him for a long time, but I ended up being quite happy with him. And I stuck to the colors that they used at the museum. So they had this blue overshirt and then another shirt underneath. There was this orangey brown, and he had actually had green trousers and a brown hat. And here I am painting the castle, the roof of the castle. I decided not to draw the entire castle because I actually looked back in some of my older sketchbook and I have sketched it before. So this time I was focusing on the quite impressive rampart. And here I am using a bluey green and a very vibrant yellowy green to paint the grass, and a yellow for the flowers, very like citrusy, lemony yellow. And I decided just to add the name of the castle above. I might go back actually write something about the day in the sky, part of the sky. I haven't done that, but looking at it now, I think that would have been appropriate. And here I am painting the shadow or the reflection from the rampart in the moat. And I am painting. I had to make up the hairstyle. I tried to look up how men would have had their hair, and at the paintings I found they had this amazing bob. So I gave him a bob. And here I am using a mix of dark blue, purple, and Payne's grey as a shadow, and just popping that all over the painting to create shadows. Here I'm giving the parts of the castle roof that were in shadow. And I think I'm just painting his face and giving him some red cheeks and a red nose. And I think we're about to finish this painting, actually. Oh, I just discovered I didn't paint his eyes there, so this is the idea, and this is the finished page. But my idea is to explore something and then later on document it. And I hope you enjoyed, because I will be back with more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching.